oftentimes counterintuitive, if not downright paradoxical. You know where you want to go with life, but the way that seems most reasonable and logical oftentimes does not work. It often appears that the way that seems like it cannot possibly be effective is against all expectations. These days we do a lot of talk about self-esteem. We want people to see their value, to feel good about themselves. We want people to understand, especially children, that they have an intrinsic value. But sometimes the way we attempt to accomplish that goal do not work. I'm not sure, for example, with young children, I know in soccer, in baseball, and basketball, for the earliest years, they don't bother keeping score in the games, feeling like if a child loses, that will help hurt his self-esteem. But I'm not sure that really works because, they enjoy playing the game, and that's good that they enjoy playing the game. But later on in life, they're going to have to deal with the fact that they're going to play ball games and they're going to lose. And if they've not been prepared for losing, they're going to find that they feel real bad about it later on. Most of us try to gain self-esteem or express self-esteem by finding our self-worth when we're successful, when we're actually doing well, when we win. Even to the extent that some people will do things that both try to bolster their self-esteem but actually works against them. There are some people that will win at every cost because they want people to see them as winners. They want to see people as seeing them as somebody of value, somebody that's going to get ahead, and they'll cheat to do it. But deep down inside, if they're cheating to do it, how do they feel about themselves? Not very good. And out of other people that see them cheating but don't usually say anything about it, how do they feel about it? They don't see a whole lot of worth in that person either. There are people that bend the rules. There are people that insist on getting their own way. There are people that cheat just so they can get ahead, just so they can promote themselves, just so they can try to be assertive in making people see them as somebody who is valuable. They want to be more valuable than the next person. And they'll do whatever it takes to find their value or try to express their value to others. The problem is that when people are over-assertive and giving their opinions and doing things and trying to be perfect and trying to be the winner, most of us know as well as they know deep down inside that they're not so valuable as they think they are. Think about the time when you were younger. I had a problem here because I'm short. But when you're younger and you're doing a pickup baseball game or basketball game or something like that, how's it usually done? You get two guys that say, all right, we're going to be Cowboys. Then you say, I'm going to pick so-and-so. 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 And when it's basketball in particular, I knew that I'd be one of the last ones because I was one of the shortest ones. It usually is to people that have the reputation of being the good players that are picked first. Somebody that really knows how to shoot and score and that sort of thing. But the truth of the matter is, if somebody is a ball hog, if he scores 50 points in a game but his team loses, how valuable is he really? You see, the ball hog wants to assert his reputation, wants to assert his value to everyone else by doing all the shooting, scoring all the points. But sometimes he is not so valuable to the team as he might think that he is, or the person choosing the team might think that he would be. It's not excellence in itself, by itself, that gives self-worth. It's not just about being smarter, or being more competent, or more skilled, or more right, or more assertive, or more boastful. That makes a person truly valuable. What I want to do this morning is look at a couple of scripture passages that will help us see how we may truly discover our self-worth. One passage, the gospel reading, begins with Jesus reflecting upon the cross that is ahead of him, sharing the cross with his disciples. We're going to Jerusalem. When we get there, I'm going to be betrayed and then executed. And then after he discussed this with his disciples, he discovered that as they were continuing on down the road, what they were doing was arguing on the road about which one was the greatest. I do not expect this was one of those well-reasoned, quiet discussions. You know, here's the reason why I think you might be the most important and the greatest of the disciples. Let me enumerate those reasons. And another one said, no, I'm not so sure that it might not be so-and-so who is the greatest among us and deserves to lead us after Jesus dies. That's the implication of this. Jesus has said, I'm going to die, and the disciples are thinking, which one of us is going to take over? But I don't imagine it was that kind of well-reasoned discussion. I imagine it was something more like Muhammad Ali used to be. I am the greatest. And here's the reasons why you ought to think so. So they were arguing, not just discussing. I'm the best because of this, this, and this. No, I'm the best. I'm much more competent at leading and own, And then they would put each other down. You can't do this. You can't do that. You're not very good at this. I'm a much more suitable candidate to lead us. And so Jesus entered back into the conversation with his disciples to show a different way toward greatness. Or to think about it in a different way. A different path to having self-worth. If anyone would be great, Jesus said, if anyone would be first, he must be last and servant of all. It is not by asserting yourself over others that you will find self-worth. You will find that worth when you serve. Then Jesus went on to illustrate exactly what he meant. He found a child, took that child right into the middle of this group of disciples as they walked down the road, picked up the child and gave him a hug. And told his disciples that the one that does that is great. The one who serves a child serves Jesus. The one who serves a child serves God. And that person is great in the kingdom. It is by service that one finds self-worth. Not being by being aggressive and promoting yourself to others and making others look worse than you. And to a certain extent, we know that in our modern society. For we oftentimes will find the person's value in their work. And that's related to service. When you first get to know somebody, when you're introduced to somebody, what's one of the first questions that comes out of your mouth? What do you do? What kind of work are you doing? And that helps us make a preliminary evaluation of the person. But it is not just by being a minister or a carpenter or a secretary or a doctor or whatever it is that you do that gives value to you as a person. It is when you apply that particular skill set in the service of someone else that you show your value. What Jesus has done is back this observation up a step so that we began to understand it is not in our particular training or abilities or talents that we find our worth. It is simply our willingness to attend to the needs of others and give ourselves, whoever we are, in service to them. In this sense, the cross of Jesus Christ is the very foundation of self-esteem. The cross called upon Jesus to give his life in service to others, so that through his death on the cross, others might have life. And what does Paul say in Philippians? Therefore God highly exalted him, so that on every knee would bow, on the face of the earth, and beneath the earth, and in the sea, and give praise to Jesus Christ. His value was shown on the cross because he gave himself fully to the service of others. And in the same way, the cross of Jesus Christ calls upon us to invest our lives in the service of others. By our efforts, by our generosity, by our care for them, and as Rachel said, by our love for them, we show our value. It benefits them. The way of the cross is, in fact, the true way of discovering self-love and self-esteem. The one who is first in service is the one who is greatest of all. The one who doesn't assert himself over others or boast to make others look bad and himself look good. He's not the one who has the greatest value. The one who gives himself in service is the one who has the greatest value. Our reading from the Epistle of James makes much the same point. James contrasted two kinds of wisdom. There is that earthly, devilish, unspiritual kind of wisdom that is not really based on the truth. And James says, in that kind of wisdom, excuse me, you try to show your worth by being ambitious and by being boastful. There is something that is a fundamental biblical truth that James is trying to get at, that Paul also explored, and it gets seen in a variety of places in the Bible. Paul oftentimes contrasts grace and work to say that it is not by you doing works that you find your value. It is by the fact that God has been gracious through you and you discover how to serve. It is not by being boastful. It is not by being ambitious that you show your worth to the world or even to yourself. Because when you're boastful and ambitious, what you try to do is put others down so that you are elevated higher. And that has little worth to other people. In sharp contrast, James talks about a true wisdom, a spiritual wisdom, which, as James expresses, is pure, peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy, full of good fruit. This spiritual wisdom that comes from God is the wisdom that reveals that a person's true life is found in his willingness to see and hear the needs of others, and then to respond to those needs. That is, your true worth is found in your service. When you see people that need you, and you provide what they need. In part, false esteem is never fully successful because your own view, your own self-esteem is always in part how you feel about yourself, but that's built on how you perceive other people feel about you. And if you try to assert yourself by being boastful and arrogant around other people, they're going to respond negatively to that. And no matter how loudly you boast and how great the accomplishment that you have is, other people are not going to respond very positive. Because you don't have that much value to them. We've gotten to where lately we watch Big Bang Theory. And there's a character in that, Sheldon, who thinks of himself as the absolute smartest person on the face of the earth. He went to college at 11 years old, graduated, got a doctorate at 15, and he's a physicist. Thinks he's so smart. And in one episode, he goes into a room full of physicists and gets into an argument with his buddy, and he says, you know, I didn't want to come here and give this speech because I didn't want to be judged by a whole room full of people that are not as smart as I am. And the jury says, no offense. And then he keeps on going. But his attitude is, I'm the smartest person here. But how do you reckon everybody else in the room felt about it? What an idiot. And that's the way you react to him on the show. You might know something about physics, but deep down inside, he's just an idiot. And he's annoying at that. The reality is most of us try a little bit of both. We try to assert ourselves. We try to be aggressive in promoting ourselves and our ideas and how smart we are, how capable we are. Up here, I even sometimes try to promote how short I am. But Nellie will always have me beat in that department. Doesn't bother her a bit. She's proud of the fact that she's shorter than me. And I'll never be able to beat her. But I'll also never be as tall as Mina. I'm just average. You know, but that has nothing to do with my value. And you know that. It is not how much we assert ourselves. It is not how right we are, how smart we are, how well we play. None of that makes any difference. What really gives our life value is when we make the discovery and act upon it that we can help others. And we begin to see, I'm really a valuable person. One of the best ways that a person who is depressed can get over it is to find themselves serving others. Because then they're reminded of just how very valuable they are to everybody else. When you get depressed, you start thinking, you know, I don't have any use, nobody cares for me, nobody likes me. You start serving other people. One of the things that you begin to discover is you're very valuable to them. They do like you. You're helpful to them. They don't know how to get along without you. The cross is the foundation to our work. I know oftentimes preachers will say our worth is not based on our works, it's based on God's grace. But they don't go on to explain oftentimes how that works. And that's what I've tried to do this morning. God's grace is expressed through the cross. And the willingness of his own Son to serve us. And we have seen the tremendous value he has. But the tremendous value he placed upon us as he served us. And when we serve others, we show them, I care about you, I love you, I see your value, and it's a gift. But the more we do it, the more we discover that the gift of God's grace is reflected back to us, and we find in the very service, in the very mission, in the very work of following Jesus Christ that we have more and more value. The deeper we get into the service,